G'day folks. Well, I'm going to show you how effective that little modification that I did to the sump, on how good it actually does work. Now I've had the car running about nearly, probably 45 minutes all up. I've had it running now for a good 20 minutes and a good 25 minutes before, about half hour before that. Now what I'm going to do, this test here now, it establishes roughly what we're sitting at. We're sitting on around 30 pound of oil pressure. We've got the fan cutting in and out, and it's just varying sort of 1 pound, just on 30 pound. Remember, this gauge is actually out, so it's only a reference. I know that I've got around 38 pound of oil pressure. Anyway, we've got about 30 pounds sitting there now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the engine off. I'm going to move that fan that I've got pulling out the exhaust fumes out the back, and I'm going to set it up under the car for about 5 minutes with the engine off, and then we're going to jump back in it and we're going to see how much it changes the oil pressure. And what's that going to do? If we go up a little bit in the oil pressure, we know that we've pulled some heat out of it and we've thickened the oil up a little bit. It's just a little test to see that, well, how effective it is at the minute. I'm actually in the throes. I'm going to put a temp gauge, a water temp gauge, and I'm going to hook it up in the sump. I've got a little trick I'm going to do, and I'll have an extra gauge there for oil temperature. But just for now, you'll get a bit of an idea on how that cooling, look at how brilliant it works. Alright guys, well, what have we got? 30 pound, okay? So, alright, we'll shut it down. I'll jump out and we'll move that fan around. Now the idea is to simulate a little bit of airflow under the car if it was outside. It's just to sort of show you guys how good it is, because it really does work. If I sort of run this for 5 minutes, you'll get to see. But I'm going to leave the camera running, guys, so I'm not going to do any trickery or any you know, we'll show you how it is and how it does work. Alright, we'll flick it on. It's amazing, you can feel, guys, the heat coming off the fins. Oh yeah. Oh wow. That's unreal. I'm not lying to you guys, I'm telling you the truth. You can really feel the heat coming off. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Wow. Geez, it's warm. Alright, so we'll leave that on roughly for 5 minutes. And what it's doing is pulling heat out of the oil. Just sitting there. Roughly nearly 10 litres of oil. It's working on it, pulling the temps out. Unbelievable. Now you've got to remember too, guys, the engine is developing what they call is heat soak. So it's actually getting hotter as we're sitting there. If I never had the fins on it, the oil would not cool down. If anything, it may even go up 1 or 2 degrees, because the motor now is starting to heat soak. It's not running, the water's not being circulated in it. There's no way for it to get rid of that heat, so it sort of starts to store the heat in there and build up in temperature. And I know on a hot day, well, there it is, it's gone up a little bit, and I've only had the car turned off a minute because my fans are cycling in around 200, down a little bit. So we've gained 1 or 2 degrees just sitting there. And I know on a hot day, I've seen it come around to 220, or even right round here, where the water, everything just heat soaks. So it's a good test for that oiling mod to start pulling heat just as we're sitting there. And that's the whole benefit of doing that modification. So when I do come in from a race, I can give it 10-20 minutes, like I said, half an hour just to cool down. Pulls a lot of temperature out of the oil, and it sets me up for the next race, as well as working while it's I'm flying around the track. It may not be as good as a oil cooler, but guys, for the money, you can't really go past it. It's unbelievable. So I'm really stoked with it, folks. I noticed there was a couple of dislikes on it, and I think that it's not for everyone, but for those who want to save $1 and help cool their oil as an aid, it's a great little trick, and it does really work. So I'm very, very wrapped with the results. I did a test earlier on it to see how good it was, and it actually pulled, well, it gained 5 pounds of oil pressure. So that's awesome. I love it. It's just something so simple yet so effective. We've had a bit of wind today, guys. It's been fairly breezy, but it's actually dropped off. Oh no, it's blowing a little bit. It's funny weather at the moment. We're into autumn, guys, so this is our Easter, and the weather's very fickle at the minute. Like, it's some nights are cooler than others, and it's just like spring really, but in reverse. We've still got these sort of warmish days. It feels to be about 18 degrees Celsius, but the nights are cooling down. We're sort of getting down to 10 degrees. We've actually had a frost here a week ago, down nearly 0. But yeah, it's not too bad. I can't complain. It is a beautiful place where I live. I'm very fortunate, guys. I'm very fortunate. We're 42 degrees south of the equator, so yeah, it's a very temperate climate. We don't get the heat the poor mainlanders cop, but we do have a cool winters, but we don't get the extremities of the Americans do, the North Americans. They cop some really nasty cold winters. We don't sort of cop that here. It's a very, like I said, a temperate climate, and I love it. Well, let's go in here for a quick look while I'm waiting. The boys started to strip the Hilux. I think in the next, I think now he wants to pull the motor and the gearbox out of it. So it's the next phase, and I think he's found us a nice little cheap bell housing for $50. So that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. If you just have a bit of patience, guys, and sort of just keep looking about, and things crop up, because they look to be about $1,800 for a complete kit. Well, if we can get away with it for, you know, a few $100, up to $500-600, well, that's a real win in my book. And like I said, we're not in a rush with this, guys. We're just taking our time. But oh look, this thing's going to be a beast when it's done. Absolutely going to be a beast. We're going to get it mod plated for the V8, so we won't have any dramas with registration. If we can get it mod plated with the turbo as well, all very well and good, but if not, we may put that on later once we get it all sorted with the V8 in it. Alright guys, well, we're getting close to our little 5-minute just demonstrates, guys, that what I've been talking about, it does work, guys. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't have a temperature gauge, but when the oil thickens up and you gain that little bit more oil pressure, it's usually, well, that means that you've cooled the oil off a little bit, and that's how I'm sort of gauging it at the minute. So yeah, it's awesome. We'll see. Let's fire it up. It's a beautiful little taco, that. Alright, well, let's see what she comes back to. She'll settle back a little bit once that oil sort of settles down. Of course, we've pulled a little bit of temp out of the engine now that we've got it going, and we've got cooler water running through it. I expect that to drop back to about 40 pound after a minute or two. It's fairly solid there now. It's creeping back slowly. I've left the fan running under the car. There you go, the thermo fan just kicked in. I've got that set at around 200 thermo. There we go, we've pulled a little bit out of it. So we're back to 40 pound, are we? Yep. There you go, guys. It works. Unbelievable. We're back to 30 pound. So we've gained nearly 10 pound of oil pressure. It works, guys. There is no doubt about it. Alright, folks. Well, Griff isn't mad. I'll tell you that now. There is a lot of method to my madness, and it works. That's incredible, folks. We've gained probably 8 pound, 9 pound of oil pressure just in the 5 minutes of sitting there with the fan on it, cooling that sump down. It's unbelievable. Alright, folks, I'll pop one up soon. Catch you later.